Hello, hello, and welcome to my thought, which should have been on Sunday, but Sunday was very busy. So it's Monday in London, and it's September. And September for me was always very exciting because it meant that we began school. And school was my heaven. School was where I went to escape my mother, and school was where I went to learn new things and find out about my world. And when I came home from school, my mother always had a snack for me because my mother was a big feeder. Uh, that was the one thing in my mother's house that you always did was you ate, which is probably the root of my anorexia. But and my mother was a very big feeder, and I always had whatever the dessert was the night before and a glass of milk when I came home, always. And I was always very careful not to eat too much because my mother didn't want me to spoil my dinner. And then I would go out and play. We lived in a place called Burkhead Place where that had a park, and of course my best friend was my cousin Jessica. So we would go out and we would play, or we would ride our bicycles, or put on shows in the backyard. That was coming home from school was wonderful, and on special treats, special days, I would be able to go over to my friend Dolores Shapiro's house. And Dolores Shapiro was one of seven little girls, and her daddy was a dentist who, not a dentist, he made false teeth, who lived down in the basement, who worked down in the basement. So every day when he came up for lunch, he had a little go with Mrs. Shapiro, and they ended up with seven little girls. So they decided that they would keep trying until they got a little boy. And by God, number eight was a little boy named Marshall. And they thought, he shouldn't be just alone, one little boy with seven little girls. And these little girls, by the way, were gorgeous and bright. They were so smart, and they were gorgeous. So they decided, yeah, we'll try once more, so we'll get another boy. And they got another girl. That little girl's name was Daryl. And Marshall became, he was surrounded by women, and he became such a misogynist that he used to hide behind bushes and shoot slingshots at women. And finally, he had to go and live with the oldest sister, whose name was Reba, because he couldn't live in the house with all the girls because he was emotionally unbalanced. And he became, when he grew up, a psychiatrist. But back to me coming over to Mrs. Shapiro's for after school. When we came over to Mrs. Shapiro's after school, she would take graham crackers and put a marshmallow on top and cover it with chocolate syrup and put that in the oven. And we would get that with milk. And that was when I understood why Mr. Shapiro would come upstairs and have a little go with Mrs. Shapiro that often. How can you resist graham crackers with marshmallows and chocolate and a glass of milk? It was delicious. But now times have changed. And I don't know whether you're reading the papers, but we have now been told that when your child comes home from school, you cannot hug him. What you have to do is hose him off. And I'm assuming that after you hose him off, that then you blow dry him before he comes into school. And I think we are going to have a generation of traumatized little children who come home expecting milk, cookies, and a hug from their mummies and their daddies. And instead, all they get is a shower of water and come into the house drenched and dripping. And that is my thought and my memory for this Monday. And I will have a new thought for you, I promise, next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining. I do want to say that you can get my book, Getting the Last Laugh, with a picture of me on the cover with an Irish dog named Fuji. On Amazon. It's only on Amazon. You can get my book. And if you want to hear me doing comedy, and rambling around, you can see my video, which I just put on last night, on Facebook, on my page, Lynn Ruth Miller, on my page, and it's called Lynn Ruth Miller at Home. So that's my news for the week, and I will see you, I hope, next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me.